Hi, it's Missy from Beer for the Ladies. So I wanted to make a Festbier, kind of like what I had in Germany. So this is the recipe that we came up with. I had the help of those friendly people at Old West Homebrew Supply here in Colorado Springs. So because I don't have a big enough mash tun to do a 5-gallon batch yet, we're substituting a lot of the grain with this liquid malt extract. So this is 2-row pale malt liquid malt extract, 6.6 pounds. And then we're going to do a partial mash with 1 pound of this crushed Vienna malt, okay? The hops are going to be the Northern Brewer, 1 ounce for 60 minutes. German Hallertau, 1/4 ounce for 30 minutes. And the Czech Saaz, 1/4 ounce for 5 minutes. So I already have some water here. It's sitting a little over 150. I put my grain bag in here so I don't have to do a whole lot of scooping and whatnot. I'm just going to dump this right in. Okay. We're going to mush this around a little bit, make sure we don't have any dough balls. I'm going to put the lid on. We're going to let this sit for 45 minutes. That's going to be like my partial mash, 45 minutes. And that's what we came up with when we discussed how to get the best out of this recipe. So I'll see you in 45 minutes, but it'll be instantaneous for you, and we'll move on to the next. All right, so it's been 45 minutes. Now we can go ahead and take this grain, this bag of grains out. We'll drain it a little. I already have a bowl ready to go. You want to make sure you have a bowl for any grain bags so that you don't just make a big sloppy mess across your counter. Then I'm going to add this container of 6.6 pound of liquid malt extract. Now, while we were waiting for that 45 minutes to elapse, I went ahead and did my yeast starter. The yeast that I'm using for this is a Munich wheat beer yeast, but when I talked to the guys at the homebrew store, they said this one, they had a lot of good luck with this trying to make a Festbier. So that's what we're going to use. But this is a dry yeast that you have to make a starter for. So that starter is it's 90-degree water. It's not very much water. You put it in there, and now it looks all milky. Cover it up, keep it all nice and sanitary. And actually, you can tell that it started doing something because the top of here is a little distended. But this takes about 90 minutes. So you want to start it now because the boil is going to take 60 minutes. So that math tells you that at the end of the boil, you're all done. This will be ready to pitch. All right? So let's go ahead and take this off. This is a reusable nylon bag. You can use whatever bag you have or whatever bag you want. My grain bags are a little smaller than this amount of grain, so that's why I'm using this one instead. It's not terribly heavy, but it's pretty hot still, so you need to make sure that whatever you're touching it, that you're not right down here near the grain because it's going to be a little hot. We also don't want to squeeze the bag. I'm just going to let it kind of drain on its own. I mean, everybody says that if you squeeze it, that you release tannins or something. A little bit of a nudge doesn't seem to bother me or make my beer taste bad, but I'm not just going to wring it out. So it's still coming out pretty good. As you can see, why you need that bowl ready for the grain bag, because if it's still dripping a little bit or whatever, you certainly don't want to just set it on your counter. And if I'm trying to take it to the sink or the trash can, I don't want to leave a big mess along the way. So I get that bag pretty well drained. Let's throw a little bit in there. And that's just a little bit of pressure I'm putting on there. Give it some pat, pat, pat. All right, I think that's pretty good. There, see? Nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and put in my liquid malt extract. You don't want the heat on when you do this. If the heat is on, it's going to scorch it on the bottom. Also, I had this in a bit of a hot water bath to kind of loosen it up, make it easier to pour. Now, I usually get 2 3-pound containers instead of 1 6-pound, so this is a little heavier, a little more unwieldy. Make sure that as you're putting it in, you are stirring, so it's going to take a little bit of coordination. It is a pretty light colored extract though, so I'm going to go ahead and start stirring. And then we're just stirring it in. Because even though the pot's been sitting here for a little bit, the bottom is still going to be a little hot, and I don't want it to just sit on the bottom. But see, it's pretty loose because I heated it up. Nice light color. I think this is going to make the kind of light colored beer that we want. By the way, I started with about 2 gallons of water. If you're going to do this, you know what your own boil off rate is, but if you're going to do this in a big pot, you're going to start with, I would probably start with about 6.5 gallons of water, because the grain is going to soak up some of it when you did your partial mash, and then the boil off, I usually lose anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of a gallon. So that would leave me with about almost 5.5, 5 1/3 gallon, which is good because you want more, just a little bit more than 5 gallons, because when you get ready to put it in either your secondary or bottling bucket, you're not going to take every bit of beer out of there because it's going to have all the trub on the bottom. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on. We're going to get this boiling. I'm going to boil it, and then I'm going to add that 1 ounce of Northern Brewer hops for 60 minutes. Okay? So, see you in a few minutes. Alright, so it's been a few minutes. We're about to a boil there. You see that? Some bubbling going on. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 ounce. I put it in a little bag trying to capture some of that. So I'm just going to plop that in there, and then start my timer for 60 minutes, and then we'll be on our way. Remember that the second hop addition, which is the Hallertau hops, is at 30 minutes, and the final hop addition, which is the Czech Saaz, is at 5 minutes. At that same time, 5 minutes out, we'll also drop our thermometer back in so we can kind of sterilize the end of it, and then we'll, in the boil, we'll throw it into an ice bath to chill it down, and put it in the fermenter and pitch the yeast. So I'll see you in like 30 minutes. Now we've been boiling for 30 minutes. Actually, quite a bit of that liquid is gone. I'm going to add the second hop addition, which is the 1/4 ounce of Hallertau hops. That's going to boil for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to add the last hop addition, which is the 1/4 ounce of Czech Saaz, and I'm going to put that thermometer in, like I said, boil it for the last 5 minutes, then we'll take it over, we'll chill it, and we'll get ready to put it in the fermenter. Alright, so now it's been 25 minutes. This is the last 5 minutes, so this is the Czech Saaz. I'm going to drop in there, and then our thermometer. Get that in there. There we go. So I'm going to let that boil for another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to throw it into an ice water bath, bring that temperature down to somewhere between 70 and 90 degrees, because once I throw a bunch of cold water in, it'll be in the range I need it. And then we'll pitch the yeast. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so now we're all done. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the heat. I keep my thermometer in here. I have my spoon down in there. I forgot to tell you I did that. Now I'm going to take it straight over here to the cold water bath in the sink here. Now I put just enough that it raises up to about the level there. You don't want it to overflow your sink. Now I'm just going to fill it with ice. Here. All right. So you're just going to sit here and you're going to watch the temperature. You want that to get down, like I said, between 90 and 70, somewhere in there, so that you can put it into your fermenter. Now my fermenter is already right here, ready to go. See, it's got some bubbles and stuff on it. That's the Star San sanitizer. It's a no-rinse sanitizer. It's already sitting here, sanitized, ready to go. And then over here, I have the yeast that's been sitting and waiting. And then I have the airlock and everything ready to go. Okay? So, be back in a minute. I'll show you what it's like to get it all ready. So we've gotten down to about 100 degrees here. I'm okay with that because it's not but about 1.5 gallons of wort. So I'm going to put it straight down into this bucket right here. I usually try to make sure I pour away from myself so it doesn't splash up and get all sticky. I also sometimes like to strain it, but I use the hop bags, so there wasn't, you can see there's not a whole lot of residue in there. The hop bags really captured a whole lot of those hops, so we didn't have to worry about a lot of extra in there. So now I'm going to top this off with cold water. Oops, there we go. All right, so looks like we got right about where we want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick sample using a wine thief. These have all been sanitized. If you don't have a wine thief, I suggest getting one because it makes pulling samples way easier. Look at that. There we go. It's a lot less mess. It's a lot easier. Remember, everything has to be sanitized if you plan on putting this wort back in the bucket. You don't want to have it unsanitized and then put it in there. You're going to end up infecting the whole mess. Let's see if we can get some of that off there. Okay. Let that go back into the bucket. Our hydrometer, give it a little spin. And I thought this one would be a little heavier than usual, and it looks like we are. We're about 1076 on that, which means if we ferment out to 1010 like usual, it's going to be more than 5% alcohol. But we discussed this back at the brew shop and thought that it would be a little higher in alcohol because of the conversion from not using all grain and replacing it with extract. And again, that's fine. That's fine. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take this yeast starter that's now been about 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes in the making. Look at that. It started working a little bit, getting a little bubbly. I'm going to give it some spins here to make sure that it's all coming off the bottom. Yeah, there we go. And just pitch it right in there. Okay. I'm going to take this big spoon, going to give it some stirs, nice and aerated. If you have one of those little stones or whatever that puts air into it, by all means use that. I don't have that. I got a big spoon. We'll give that. Yeah, there we go. All right. Good and oxygenated. I'm going to slap the lid on. There we go. Let's make sure I can. There we go. Before you put that airlock in, make sure that you have the handle on the right side. Push that straight on in there. My cap. Everything's been sanitized, like I said. Just going to fill it up with some star sand. There we go. Drop it in. Good to go. So now we're going to let this sit for about 2 weeks, maybe 3. I'll probably take some gravity readings along the way and see where we're at. And then we're going to do something a little bit different with this. Once I bottle condition it, or bottle it to condition it, I'm going to put it into a really cold place instead of that 68 to 72 degree area like an ale, because I am using lager yeast. I just don't have anything big enough right now to put this big fermenter in. So I'm going to have it at about 68 degrees to ferment. And then once I bottle it in 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to put it inside of my empty kegerator. It won't have a keg or anything in it, but it has space for some bottles and stuff. And I'll let it sit in there at 42 degrees for a little while. And I'm going to slowly dial down that temperature. And this is all at the advice of the guy at the homebrew store. So we'll see how that works. But it's going to end up being there because it's a lager. It's going to end up being there probably for about 5 to 6 weeks. And that means that it'll be ready for me in Oktoberfest, which will be mid-September or so. and I'm looking forward to it. I'll be sure to put a video up to see if it came out the way it should, and if it didn't, well, I'll still drink it. It doesn't matter. It's still beer. But anyway, I hope you can find a little experimentation. You can use a kit, you can use somebody else's recipe, or you make up your own as long as you're out there and you're brewing. Cheers. Thanks for watching.